Today we're going to be learning how to analyze the structure of inequality in one variable to help determine if the solution is greater or less than the solution to the related equations. We're also going to be able to write and solve inequalities to answer questions about a situation. Han is about to mow some lawns in his neighborhood. His lawnmower has a 5-gallon fuel tank, but Han is not sure how much gasoline is in the tank. He knows, however, that the lawnmower uses 4/10 of a gallon of gasoline per hour of mowing. What are all the possible values of X, the number of hours Han can mow without refilling the lawnmower? To start thinking about this question, we can list a bunch of the different numbers of hours that he could spend mowing the lawn. We know that it takes uses a fourth of a gallon of gasoline every time he mows. Okay, so if he mows for 0 hours, he only needs 0 gallons of gas. If he mows for 1 hour, he uses this much gas. So in our table, we could keep going here if we wanted to until we figured out exactly how many hours would give us the number that we needed to fill the tank. Okay, an easier way to think about this is, what if we figured out how many hours it would take to use the total 5 gallons that could possibly be in the tank? Okay, so this is a quicker way. So this is kind of like our thinking, but this is actually a way that you can set it up. All right, so if I solve for H, I'm going to divide here. And don't be afraid of dividing decimals. Okay, all you're going to do is set it up just like a regular division problem. And you're going to move the decimal place over the same number of times. Okay, so if I move it over once on the outside to get it to the back of the number, I do the same thing on the inside. Okay, 4 goes into 5 once. 4 goes into 10 twice. And we're left with 12.5 or 12.5 hours. So if the lawnmower is full, he can move for 12.5 hours without having to refill. Now the only problem is that we don't know how much gas is in the tank. So he's not sure of that. So we're going to have to come up with a different way to represent this. So next it says to write one or more inequalities to represent your response. Be prepared to explain or show your reasoning. Alright, so if we have the lawnmower, okay, we don't know how much gas is in it, but we know that the gas has to be less than or equal to 5 gallons. Alright, we also know that a fourth of a gallon gets used per hour that is mowed. Okay, so this is going to give us our total gallons, our total number of time that has passed, and how many gallons have been used. Okay, so if we set this up, if we take the number or the rate at which it's used times the number of hours that you use the gasoline or the lawnmower, it has to be less than or equal to 5 gallons. Okay, that's the max that can go in the lawnmower, and this is the rate at which it's being used. All right, so this inequality is going to be one inequality that kind of combines all of our thoughts. Different ways to solving. Andre and Priya used different strategies to solve the following inequality but reached the same solution. Make sense of each strategy until you can explain what each student has done. We're first going to look at Andre's work. All right, looks like what Andre did first was he figured out where would x be equal in these cases. So he worked it out and he solved for x. So we know that the answers are going to have to be either less than or greater than 3. So what he did next was he went through and he tested x equals 4. When he plugged in x equals 4 for the inequality, he went through and evaluated it, and he found that he got a false statement. 17 is not less than 14. Because that inequality is false, 4 is not a solution. If a number greater than 3 is not a solution, the solution must be less than 3. So he found that his solution the answers had to be less than 3. Priya took a different approach. She started the same way by solving for x. But then she went through and she figured out, based on the second part, that she's going to need to have something that is negative or less than 3 to be able to make the inequality true. So she looked at the second step of her inequality and tried to make sense of it. Okay, so either it's going to be negative or less than 3 to make this true. If it's greater than 3, she would get something that's bigger than what's on the right, which would make it a false statement. Okay, so she thought about it a little bit differently than Andre, but both ways will give you the right answer.